Hello, my friend, and welcome to the 593rd episode of the Sales Podcast. I'm Wes Schaefer, the Sales Whisperer, your host. Today we have Christian Banach. He is going to talk about how to land larger deals faster. He's got an interesting background. He talks about how he went back into an employee role. And a lot of people won't admit that, right? And I share how I did that twice after I started the Sales Whisperer. Sometimes you just do what you got to do. But that experience prepared him for better growth. And so we get into that and the lessons learned, how the 2008 recession hit him, how he's handling this current recession, and growing through it. So you are in for a treat. I was hoping to get the 600th episode done in 2022. I may do that. I don't know. Right now it's looking like January 3rd. I could move that up, but I don't know. Let me know if I should. But coming up on 600, that seems like a big deal. I remember on 100 and 200 I did something kind of special. But now it's just a thing, right? It's just what I do, make the sales podcast. And it's interesting. I've been talking about a little bit about this book, Stolen Focus. And I've got a lot of notes. I'm going to be addressing a lot of its points in the live copywriting class this Friday, December 2nd, copybywest.com. You can go sign up for that. But in that book, he talks about how they analyzed artists and people that get into flow, and how, like these true artists, they would make a painting, take a look at it, set it aside, and just start again. It was because it was what they do, right? And so you need to figure out what it is that brings you joy, pleasure, satisfaction, makes you money, whatever, any combination of those things, and stay at it. People ask me how I've been able to do it for so long. I first started podcasting in 2009 with a buddy of mine, Roger Bauer. We had the Southern Social Media. We were both just too different and distracted and in different time zones, and we got several done, but we didn't keep it up. But it laid the foundation. But it took 4 more years, 2013, before I started the Sales Podcast, and have stuck with it ever since. So, there really are no failures, right? As long as you learn. We talk about that in jiu-jitsu. It took me years to really understand that. They say that you either win or you learn. And for a long time, I'm like, well, I'm losing a lot. But I realized I was learning. Most of the moves that I know because I tried to go after them. I tried to execute them, and I messed up. And either I gave up points or maybe even lost the match. But certainly I didn't execute it. And it frustrated me. And I'm like, I need to learn this. And like they say, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So when you're ready, the lesson will make sense. So just keep on keeping on. All right. That's why I've got the different programs. If you need to get better at sales, it's makeeverysale.com. If you need to get better with applying everything and staying motivated and staying disciplined, join us for our live weekly calls. Okay. That's at gorillasofgrowth.com. We're live every week, and you can ask questions at any time. That'll help you stay plugged in. This Copy by Wes, I'm doing, it'll be in person, and you can attend remotely on Zoom. I'm going to record it. Then there's a month of support in a private group. I'll take all those lessons, bottle them up, and then make that an on-demand course as well. All right. But you can attend live, copybywest.com. Avail yourself of that little treat. All right. Sign up for that and then come back and listen to this episode with Christian. Christian Banach, all the way from Chicago, pickleball extraordinaire. You didn't know I knew that about you, did you? Welcome to the Sales Podcast, man. How the heck are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing, Wes?
I'm good. I saw your LinkedIn post today on pickleball.
Yes. Yeah. My guilty pleasure. Slowly becoming an addict, but enjoying every moment of it.
I have yet to do it. I've seen it. We do cornhole. It's similar, right?
There's some similarities to it, I guess you could say, but pickleball a little bit more, a little more athletics. You do build up a sweat playing it. So
I mean, I hold a beer in one hand and like all these sandbags in the other. That's kind of athletic.
yeah, you're working those biceps, I
The
guess, right?
balance, the
Yep,
balance. I mean,
balance.
I'm taking in the wind, and you know what I mean. I think you're besmirching my cornhole abilities. We're not off to a good start, man.
Hey, I love a good game of cornhole myself. So
So you've got a business, typically working with agencies, helping them grow. But I want to know about that. And, we talked about as well, just there's some core principles that everybody can learn from as they're trying to land these businesses, right? But how did you get into how did you find this niche? Like why work with agencies versus individuals, or how did you even get into doing your own thing?
yeah, great question. So I kind of stumbled into the marketing and advertising space. To be honest with you, I did go to college for marketing and advertising, but didn't really know where that was going to take me. I had actually started a business, a concert promotions business, actually, my senior year of high school. And for a number of years, that was a great way for me to pay my way through school. Ended up growing that business, working with some really big artists, Lady Gaga, Pitbull, to name a few. And what ended up happening is we got approached by a marketing agency that was looking for some help in the Chicago market where I'm based out of. And it was kind of a natural extension to some of the work we were doing already for our concert business. So we helped that agency out, did a great job. They came back to us with more work. Other agencies found out about us. So the next thing you knew, half the business was actually working with marketing agencies to do experiential and event marketing activations. And the other half of the business was our concert promotions business. So that's really how I stumbled into the marketing and advertising space. And my business was rolling along great. And then that 2008 recession hit. And like a lot of clients that I advise now, I really didn't have a sales and marketing plan. I just sort of lived by referrals, organic word of mouth. So I went out, I hired a consultant. They came in, they really opened my eyes up to this whole new world of sales and marketing, and generating new business. So I ended up, after a couple of years of still kind of stumbling along with my business, deciding to close that down. And then I went to go work at marketing and advertising agencies in business development roles. And I did that for about 10 years, worked for some small agencies, worked for some big agencies. And that's really where I really dove into this space and saw a tremendous opportunity to, help agencies with their growth. And what ended up happening and how I founded this business was the pandemic came along, and it felt like deja vu all over again to where I was with the recession in 2008. The difference here is rather than me needing to go out and hire a consultant to help me, I felt like I was now that consultant that could come back and help others. So fast forward, it's about 2 years now, and this company is serving, as you mentioned, agencies and marketing companies, anywhere from 10 people on up to several hundred people, and helping them with their growth.
So I think if I'm reading between the lines properly, so you hired someone to help, but doing the biz dev on your own, was it not enjoyable? Was it not profitable, that caused you to switch and go back into biz dev for others?
Yeah, that's a great question. There was a lot. I mean, from on the personal side, I had just, had a daughter. I was looking for some more stability versus playing the entrepreneur hat. So that was definitely a factor. But beyond that, I saw that the business, what I like to say, if you don't have a found business strategy, the best sales and marketing isn't going to work. And I don't think we were in a place where the business was one that was going to grow much beyond where we were at, even with great sales and marketing. So it felt like a good time to make a pivot.
Was it tough going back to work for someone else after working for yourself?
It was, yeah, it was, it definitely was challenging. If I had an idea as an entrepreneur business owner, I could get it implemented that next day if I wanted to, versus here, there was obviously a lot of, corporate bureaucracy and red tape. And it's something that definitely took me some time to get used to. But on the same token, I think having an entrepreneurial background really gave me a leg up from others that sort of just sit around and wait for the boss to tell them to do something. Or I went out and just made things happen for myself. And I started to see good success because I brought that same mindset to my sales roles.
Do you think they were maybe like a little hesitant to hire you? Because I mean, sometimes they'd say when you work on your own, right? It's like, yeah, you're just going to learn our ways and then steal our ways or something. Or, did you have to sell them that you were ready and willing to work for them?
Yeah, well, I had ended up interviewing at a number of different places, and I did get the sense that there was a cautiousness, a skepticism about, how I would maybe fit into an organization, given that pretty much my entire life I had worked for myself. Luckily, I found a very entrepreneurial company that my background, and we just had a really good synergy, and they were willing to take that chance. And I'd like to think it paid off for them in the end.
Yeah, for sure. I asked that because I went back to work a couple of times after starting the Sales Whisperer, and I was always able to keep this up on the side because I was more of like a glorified affiliate for various CRMs. So I could get paid just for blogging, right, and driving traffic. So it didn't take a lot of my time on the consulting side. And so, I like to just explore that because I feel like there's too much noise on the internet. Like if you're not an entrepreneur working for yourself, then you're just shit, and it's like, that's not true. One of my personal mentors and good friends has never worked for himself. And he's literally the top salesman at one of the biggest Fortune 100 companies in the world. And you can't tell me that he's not somebody because he doesn't work for himself, so, and I've got a big family, I've 7 kids, and it's like, my wife has always stayed home and I didn't want to burden them, right? While I try to figure stuff out.
Yeah.
And when somebody throws 6 figures at you, and it's a recession, you're like, yeah, okay, I'll do that for a little while.
Sure.
You do what you got to do, right?
Yeah, I'll say, the company that I have now, we're doing really, really well, but I would never have been able to achieve what I've achieved at this company in such a short period of time without the experience of going and working for somebody else for those, I think it was probably around 8 years I had between my first company and then founding this company again. I didn't know what I didn't know, and going to work for someone else, I learned, some great things. I learned some things not to do. And I always said, if I ever do my own business, I'm not going to do this. But it really gave me a different perspective. And to be honest, it opened my eyes up as well. When I had my business, yes, we did constant promotions, but we were working beyond like some of the artists we worked with, a lot of small, local and regional brands, and going to work for somebody else really opened my eyes up to how to get into the enterprise level sales, which I don't think I would have been able to kind of crack that code just doing it on my own. So that really was beneficial. And I say that was a great way for me to make money and at the same time get an education to get paid to learn as well.
Yeah. So you mentioned Lady Gaga. Are you the one that made her meat suit?
Yeah, that's actually, I forgot to get to the other side business. We do make meat suits for celebrities as well. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. So you mentioned you went to school for marketing, but then, you learned what you didn't know and you got paid to learn. Like in hindsight, would you go get a marketing degree again? Or would you recommend, an 18-year-old listening to this now getting a marketing degree, or just jump into marketing somewhere and learn it on the job?
Yeah, I don't think it's an either or. I think what's amazing now is you can launch an e-commerce website with just load up a website and there's just so many things that you can do now with your laptop to start your own business. So I think what really was beneficial for me when I was going to school, I did already have this concept promotion business going. So I learned a lot. Like what I was learning in class, I would just take and apply it to my business. So it was really beneficial for me. I still do feel that there's value in a college education. So I'm a proponent, of that. I don't think you need to go to the most expensive school in the world, out there and get in, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. But I do see their value in going to school. But I also think there's tremendous, value in just trying to spin up something on your own, a little side hustle, and learning, on the fly as well. So I think it's both.
Yeah, you mentioned you learned what not to do. Give me an example of that.
Yeah, that's a great question. Because I was always the boss, I didn't know what it was like to be an employee and how to build culture within an organization was something that I didn't really see the value in because I was not that employee. It was my company, it was my baby. So I looked at it differently than with somebody who isn't, it isn't all consuming in their whole world. So, I had some bosses, let's just say that didn't treat their employees as well as I would have liked to be treated. And but I don't know if I even had that perspective, before. I don't think I was ever a bad boss, but I don't think I really focused on it, like I did after having some of those experiences and really how to be a good leader and how to, inspire others. I think all kind of came from working for somebody else.
Yeah. I think I've kind of evolved in that way too. I've always been just brass tacks, just get it done. I've always been in sales, right? Money motivated. It's like, I don't need my hand held, help me sell more. But there is something about a culture. It's like, I don't want to lie. Oh, we're all family. Yeah, we're all family until there's a recession and you fire us all, right? But it's like, I do care about the people that I work with.
Yeah.
And I've always told my own clients, it's like, look, your employees are not going to be as motivated as you. If they were, they'd start their own companies.
Yeah.
So you got to understand where they're coming from to maintain them, right? And figure out what makes them tick. And even salespeople, like it's not always money. They think I'll just give them a raise. Like it's not always more money that'll keep people happy. Did you find out something similar?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're right. How you described yourself, I'm very much the same way. I don't need anybody to hold my hand. I am just motivated. I do want to earn money, but being an employee, I didn't have that same feeling, necessarily as when I was the boss, if you will, right? So understanding then what was motivating me, in those roles, and it does, and a lot of it did go down to, how are you being treated? How do you set the vision, for the company? Something more than just maybe, the money aspect of it all. And yeah, that's really where I learned that. And I think I've taken those learnings and hopefully I'd like to think applied it to this business I have now.
So you went through two big shocks, '08 and COVID, and now it looks like we're gearing up for another recession. What are you having your clients do now? How should people prepare for 2023?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I see kind of both sides. I see that there are some clients that they are sensing already that, clients are pulling back budgets. Everything seems to be moving slower. Everybody's sort of waiting to see what happens. So sales cycles seem like they're getting longer. Terms of deals are changing. They want to de-risk a lot of these opportunities. So, we're working with our clients to, what we do for our clients is to help them with their own growth. So, we're advising it, you can take one of two paths, right? You can decide, things are getting tough. We're going to cut budgets on sales and marketing to save the cost. That's not what I'm advising. I'm saying you want to at least keep what you're doing, if not maybe do more, because those deals are going to be harder to come by. They might be smaller. They might take longer to materialize. So if you want to maintain where you're at, cutting the marketing and sales budget isn't going to get there. And there's some that are receptive to that and they get it. And there's others that don't. But that's what we're looking at. And it's the same thing what we're doing for our company. I can't expect, what we did in 2022 to work exactly what it's going to be in 2023. It's going to take more. And that's what we're doing, for ourselves as well.
Yeah. Um, Somebody had posted something about this just last week on social media, and basically alluding to, if you're, laying off now, you're an idiot. You don't. This is when the money is made, but I'm like, if you weren't reading the tea leaves properly, you don't have the leverage, or you don't have the wherewithal to ride this thing out at your current levels, right? So you got to make some tough decisions sometimes. But like those, are you seeing different avenues working better or worse? Any kind of paid traffic, are you seeing outperforming or underperforming, or is the phone coming back in vogue? I've had a lot of salespeople, obviously, on this show, and even all through COVID, the last 2.5 years, everyone has told me the phone is working better than ever. What are like some practical things you're seeing that our listeners could apply?
Yeah. So we do a lot of, what we would all call cold outreach, right? Reaching out to companies, prospects that you don't have a relationship with, and trying to get your foot in the door. That's our bread and butter. Now, what we've seen is that that's gotten more challenging. And I think there's a variety of reasons, for that, one being the recession. But where we're seeing actually great growth for our clients is what we actually call warm, outbound prospecting. And that's really looking at your network and tapping into your network and going back to them. And for the world that we live in, right, you may have worked with somebody that has now moved on to a different company. You may have had someone that worked for you that have gone, working for a competitor that you could potentially work with. There might have been a junior level person that's been promoted into a senior level role. And unfortunately, most people that we see, maybe the sales roles, hopefully they're staying on top of their network, but not always. Sometimes they're so focused on just getting the new that they forget about what they have already. So I think everybody can learn from this. But then beyond that is also looking at others in your organization. They have relationships too. They might have worked with clients. They might have gone to college with somebody. Their neighbor may be somebody. So what we've now been working a lot with our clients on is, how do we tap into your existing network? Because they already know you, they already like you, they already trust you. And that might be lower hanging fruit that you can tap into versus trying to go for someone cold, because everybody is nervous, right? They don't want to. I think it's going to be tougher to win cold business right now because budgets are tight. If they're going to work with someone, they want to have that level of trust already. They're less willing to experiment with something new. So if you can work with your existing network, that barrier, may not be as big of a factor because of that. So, and we're working with some ways that we've systematized this approach across organizations to really help them tap into what we call this warm network.
So what is considered warm? Like anyone that has ever bought from you, or did you do like a time frame, like anyone in the last 2 years? How do you structure that?
Yeah, I wouldn't get hung up necessarily on the name warm, necessarily. I think it's just that there's some prior relationship. And I think every organization is a little bit different. It could be, ideally, you're starting maybe at those that you have the closest relationships with or have worked within the closest period of time, but that's obviously at some point your network, you're gonna run dry on that. So then you got to move maybe to the tier 2. Maybe that's not as great a solid relationship. Maybe it's people you've met at conferences a couple times. You don't know them as well, but you can reference that, or someone you worked with 5 years ago, or a client you worked with 3 years ago. So then you kind of move into that second, tier of prospects as well, where again, that relationship may not be as strong, but again, your foot in the door is going to be a lot easier referencing that than it will be someone that's just totally coming at you cold.
Yeah. Okay. And are you just calling, sending an email, doing all the above?
Yeah, it's really a combination of all the above. Email is generally the strongest channel for us, but we do take a multi-channel approach. So it is also phone. It's also typically LinkedIn. Everybody's a little bit different in what channel they engage with the most. So we're doing a combination of all of it.
Why is LinkedIn messaging so bad?
Yeah, I can go on and on about LinkedIn. I mean, I don't like the experience itself of the inbox. I lose messages all the time in there. And this is what I do. This is my job. So I can only imagine these prospects who are not living and breathing in LinkedIn all day. It's just so easy for things to get, passed up in it. And you just got to approach LinkedIn differently than you would, email or even the phone. And I think people try to, take the same approach as they would, in an email and LinkedIn. And that's just what I've not seen as nearly as effective.
Golly, my inbox, like right now, hey, just bubbling this up. Like, like I literally go and I remove the connection and unfollow. And today I muted a guy. I'm like, okay, I'm done. You've overstayed your welcome. Oh my gosh. It's just like everybody just looking for a shortcut. Is it all just me too? Everybody just, they just look over the fence. Oh, the competition's doing that, so I'll do that. And then they think that's going to work.
I think a lot of it is, what we are advising our clients on is, we do try to spend the first 6 months, let's say, in what we kind of call more of a pilot phase. So it is testing channels, it's testing messaging, it's testing offers, because you don't know. Each audience might be a little different. Each client of ours is a little bit different. So just to copy what others are doing may not make sense, but we do try to test a lot of different things, and then you start to see what's working, and more importantly, what's not working, and you double down on what is, and you eliminate what's not. But I don't think others, in many cases, are doing that, right? It's just everybody else did. I read a blog, I read some guru on LinkedIn said that I should be doing this, and then just playing follow the leader and not really taking the time to think through what is right for their audience. So we do a lot of work with go-to-market strategies for our clients. So it's everything from speaking to your existing clients, speaking to prospects, speaking to others in your firm, and understanding the buyer journey, understanding what is the right content at what stage, what are the right channels that they're using. And it's not a one size fits all. I mean, while we work with agencies, you would think that, we're all calling marketers, right? But every industry is different types of agencies are different. So there's even nuances within our niche. So to think that what works in one industry is going to work in another isn't the reality. Every situation is a little bit unique.
How do you keep your clients patient for 6 months?
Yeah.
Right. 6 months of listening and testing. So you're basically promising them that they'll have almost nothing to show for 6 months.
Yeah.
But then it'll get really good, because then you'll know what the hell needs to be done and you can hit it hard.
Yeah. Well, luckily we are able to deliver results, in the first 6 months. Now, is it fully optimized? No, it will, gain optimization over time. But really what it boils down to is setting the right expectations up front, and I think there's a lot of snake oil sales, in the world that we live in, where they promise, the world, and then, they're not able to deliver on that. And that's where things tend to go south. So we're very transparent up front about, what the time it takes and what they can expect or not expect. And we walk away with a lot of from a lot of deals because their expectations don't match. They want to work with us for 30 days. And, if the results are there, then, we'll continue on. It's like, that's just not how this works. I wish it did, but it doesn't. So it's then for us, making sure that we find those that really see, the long term, of what we do, and are willing to make that investment and have the ability to make that investment.
Are they typically firing an agency and you're replacing them, or are they maybe the first time working with an outside agency because like they've just kind of stalled? Like what's happening in your typical client's world when they realize they need to bring you in? Yeah.
In most cases, there's sort of a joke in the advertising world, is that it's the cobbler's kids have no shoes syndrome, right? They do great marketing for their clients, and then they either don't do it at all for themselves, or they do very little for themselves. They're so wrapped up in client work. And it's, still very an immature market, I think, when it comes to sales. It's still that Mad Men type era of relationships and networks. And I think those are all great. But to me, that's a bonus. That should not be what your business is reliant on, is just through your network and referrals. So they're generally coming to us because they have reached some level of success without a sales and marketing function internally. Some maybe only 10 people at their organization. Some have grown to several hundred, without having to really tap into it. But at some point, though, that network, dries up, and they need to get more predictability in their sales efforts. They may want to grow in a specific area, a new capability, a new market. So some sort of trigger event like that ends up happening. But generally, they have not worked with another firm like ours. This is something new to them, which also, takes some education on our behalf to how this even works in the first place. So, but yeah, I would say that's typically, how we start our engagements.
Yeah. And that makes sense. I have the same thing. It's like, I'm terrible at marketing myself. I'm working with a few different folks on different things right now. So, and it's good when people can admit that, right? And say, just help me grow. It's like, good grief, set the pride aside and just go make shit happen. Like, good grief. All right. So warm market, go back through. It's good to hear you're saying, and I've heard this a lot as well, that email is alive and well. And I guess especially if you've had a relationship, if you've had any correspondence with someone, then that email should reach them, right? So that helps with deliverability. Are people okay being receiving texts? Is that if you've had a relationship in the past, or seems like COVID opened it up. Like it was kind of iffy if you could text someone, but now it's like text everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. We have access to mobile phone numbers through different data providers. And that's how we're making a lot of our cold calls, because we've found it very difficult, increasingly more difficult to reach people in the office, because a lot of them have not returned to the office, or if they have, they're only there a couple days a week. So, calling on the mobile numbers is where we see most of our connections happening. Now, taking that to a text form is something we've done a little bit of testing with. We have received some negative feedback from that. So we try not to text cold. But if it's somebody that we have, received an email response, or we've spoken to on the phone, or, something along that, where we've established something, we have used texting. And, I would say it's mild results, from it. So it's not something we've necessarily really embedded into our process to this point, but it's something we're continuing to keep our eyes on.
Do you recommend different technology like CRMs and stuff to clients, or do you work with what they have, or do you use your own, then kick the leads over to them?
Yeah. Unfortunately, most of our clients do not have a CRM, since they, again, have grown through just word of mouth and referrals. So most of them don't even have that. So we do make recommendations on, platforms that they could be using. We have our own. So when we're doing some of the sales for them, we're housing all of that ourselves. And then we can, plug in if they do have one, or they do, buy into one, we can plug into that for them. But yeah, interestingly enough, that's not something that most of them have.
Okay, we need to talk.
Agree.
I just might know a CRM salesman that keeps working with you. It's crazy, right? It's almost 2023, and I see this people. It's all Google Sheets and Google Docs. I'm like, what are y'all doing? It's crazy. But I guess that's why they're doing outreach, right? Because nothing to systematize. It's just been kind of all doing it from feel, huh?
Yep.
And they're like, okay, I've gotten as big as I can just from feel.
Yep. Absolutely.
So is your marketing reaching them, and they're finding you, or how does your phone start ringing?
Yeah, we do a number of different things. I would say we kind of stumbled into this, to be honest with you. I knew I wanted to launch my business again, right? I was still working at an agency at the time. So I wanted to build up some awareness, because I knew within a few months I would be making a switch. So I started an email newsletter. And because I'm in sales, I knew, how to get access to the email addresses of decision makers. So I started an email newsletter, ran that for probably 3 or 4 months. It's something that's totally not salesy.
Did you send them cold to these
I
decision
sent them
makers?
cold. I sent them
Wow.
cold. Yep. But it
Wow.
was very, very hyper focused and adding value. I was not selling anything. I couldn't sell anything because I was working for somebody else at the time. So it was really just about awareness to get my name out there. And again, did that for about 3 or 4 months before starting my business. But it took off right out of the gates. I was getting people responding to these emails, asking for more information. What do you do? And that's really been probably the primary way we've been able to grow. We've now developed a list of probably 35,000, agency and MarTech, decision makers, and it's all cold that's going out to them through a newsletter. And that's really where we've started to then build our awareness up. And we then started to experiment with like LinkedIn ads, again, very targeted though towards the market. But the whole idea is we're trying to warm up the audience. So when we do send a cold email, which we do, we drink our own Kool-Aid. That's how we end up landing the meetings primarily, is through our own cold outreach, through email and through phone. But I don't think we would have near the results that we have in the response rates and ultimately the closed won business if we were to just go at it 100% cold, without the ads, without the email newsletter, without podcasts like this. So we're constantly out there trying to get our name out there and in front of people, and then we hit them with the second punch, which is the cold outreach.
So, all right, I'm very curious on this because I'm always telling people it's so risky to do true cold email in a broadcast, right? Because if you get too many complaints, I mean, they just shut your account down, right? So, do you dribble these out like a little bit at a time to a small batch and warm them up and get them to opt in, or how are you doing that?
No, I'm literally just uploading a list of prospects and sending them through the email automation platform. And we receive very little spam complaints, at all. I mean, most weeks we don't get any. And again, I think it's really boils down to the newsletter itself. I mean, it adds value to them. There's insightful information. We're tracking in our world. A big indicator of whether a company might want to change agencies is if there's a new CMO that's been hired. So we're tracking CMO hire. So we're providing free information to them about new CMOs that happen. We're sharing other relevant information to them. So, we receive actually great feedback on, I don't know how we hear it all the time. I don't know how I got on your newsletter, but I did. And I'm glad I did because I've been reading it for the last X number of months and have really gotten value on it. And we thought it'd be a good time for us to connect on it. So we've talked to clients about starting their own as well, but it cannot be self-promotional at all. Once it turns self-promotional, I think that's where, the tipping point, goes with this. So, it has to just be all value back and it can't be about you.
Is there a PS, contact us if you're curious, or is it just
No,
truly leaving it up to them?
it's been 2 years now. I've never asked for a sale, never asked for a meeting, never did anything salesy. Here, bottom line is they know if they have an understanding of what I do. In the bottom, it does say Christian Banach is a business development and growth consulting firm. There's my website. If there's interest, they can go and check it out. But yeah, there's nothing in there that would, push them to try to book a call or, even visit the website.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had a long-term drip sequence running for a decade and I sell it. I built it in Infusionsoft and I sell it. I can push it to other accounts and it's non-salesy. It's just once a month, just, it's seasonal, right? So it's a message relevant to the season, but non-salesy, a quote, a story on Memorial Day. And every time I get, oh, thank you for this email. This is a great message. And they're non-salesy also. And,
Yeah.
And at a minimum, even when I've gone through some dry spells, like just not creative, not feeling it, or busy with work, and at least clients hear from me once a month because of that.
Yep.
And it's the same message. I've never changed the message. Because who's going to remember a message from a year ago?
Right.
And it just rekindles itself. It just boom. And where you enter, wherever it starts appropriately at that time, and then just goes. And I tell people that all the time, like, educate, inform, entertain, every
Yep.
now and then sell something,
Yeah.
and they're like, what? You're the sales whisperer. I'm like, right. This is how you sell today. And they're,
Yeah. Yeah.
whoa, okay.
I think another reason why we might see some success with it as well is these emails come from me as an individual person versus a company, a corporate, and that was strategically done, because we're B2B sales, but nobody wants to buy, people buy from people, but nobody wants to follow a company page,
Right.
they want to follow people. So that email comes across as being very personal versus very corporate sounding.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. I always tell people, they're like, it's not personal. It's just business. I'm like, bullshit. Everything's personal.
Yeah.
When I land big deals, there's an individual signing that PO.
Yeah.
Or telling me no. It's personal, dude. So it's like, put some life, put some personality into it. My clients, God bless them, right? They're very smart people in their fields, but they are so boring in their communication. It's like you meet them in person, they're not boring, but all of a sudden it comes time to make a video or send an email, and it's like, hi, I am a robot. You should buy our stuff. It is really good. And it's like, why do their brains just freeze when it comes to communicating?
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, you mentioned earlier the pickleball story on LinkedIn. That was actually that was the part of the article that went out today. I just repurposed it and posted on LinkedIn. So that's part of the type of content. So people get an opportunity to get to know me as well. I'm sure of the list, maybe 95% could care less about me playing pickleball or anything else, but it's that 5% that do. And that's all I need to have a great business. So.
Yeah, that's what I tell people. It's like, do you want 100 people, 1% sold, or one person 100% sold? Right.
Yep.
You just extrapolate those numbers, and you'll be okay. Very cool. So your website is your name, right?
It is.
So Christian, Banach, Banach.com. Build relationships, gain perspective, grow. So, your emails may not sell, but the sales podcast sells, right? I'm selling you, man. I'm going to tell people, go check you out.
Well, thank you. I'd appreciate that.
I'm linking to your LinkedIn. Should they follow you anywhere else? You want me to link to Twitter and Instagram, anything, YouTube?
LinkedIn is the best spot. You'll see, I do content, on every weekly basis. Go to the website. If you're interested in this newsletter we mentioned, you could register for it there. We do, people can opt in. We got a free masterclass also. If you want to hear a little bit more about our prospecting philosophy, we call it Propel. So there's a free masterclass there that, you can register for and check out. But either one, the website or LinkedIn is a great place to learn more.
All right. I'm going to go sign up. Very cool.
Great.
Well, Christian, thanks for, do you do pickleball in the winter? What do you do in Chicago, man? You got to go inside, don't you? Are y'all just tough? You just tough in Chicago? You're like, whatever, play on the ice.
I was playing in 35-degree weather last week and decided I don't think that's going to be sustainable. So I did starting to find out where the indoor places are now. Yeah.
All right. I was about to question my manhood, so I'm glad you said you stopped doing that. All right.
Yeah.
Man. All right. Very cool. Maybe I will start. It'll be you and me. It'll be the marketing guy, sales versus marketing. Who do you think is going to win?
My money's on sales.
Man, you're running for office. I can tell. All right, Christian, thanks for coming on the show, man. It's been great.
All right. Thanks, Wes. Appreciate it.
Have a good day.
All right, bye-bye.
Reach out to your warm list. Reach out to the people that know, like, and trust you already. Everyone is going through some type of difficult time, right? Eggs are more expensive. Gas is more expensive. Interest rates are going up. Reach out and say hi. He's not the only guy that I respect that has made something of themselves, I'll just say, that recommends this. It's good work. When I talk about 12 weeks to peak, one of the things I have you do is make outbound calls. There's a lot of stuff out there, guys, selling programs on how to get 100,000 Twitter followers, how to sell $1 million on LinkedIn, blah, 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 blah. And all of that is doable. And you can work on those things after hours. But during the day, you can make some calls. You can send some emails while you build your courses, while you build your e-commerce. All that stuff takes some effort. So, just get up and get after it. Like he says, everyone is nervous. Multimedia, multi-step is the key. Email still works well in warm markets. I can confirm that. Okay? And don't just copycat people. Most of the, we talked about LinkedIn. So many messages are so bad because everybody just does what everybody else does. And it's bad. Come to my class, copybywes.com. I will show you how to write better messages, how to make an impact, how to stand out, how to have fun doing it, how to have fun making more money. And it's not being cheesy. It's not being pushy. It's not being manipulative. It's being honest. It's being effective. You got to do it. Okay? So like I said, 12weekstopeak.com. Hold yourself accountable. Gorillasofgrowth.com. I'll hold you accountable. A lot of tools. Worst case, just reach out. Contact us on at thesaleswhisper.com. We'll set a time, see how I might be able to help you. Go do that, and then go sell something.